Welcome back to Squawk Box. In a recent op-ed in The Information, Autodesk CEO Andrew Anagnost saying that lessons are to be learned from social media that can be applied towards regulating AI. Joining us right now to talk all about it is Autodesk President and CEO Andrew Anagnost. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Morning,
help
Andrew.
us understand. I would encourage everybody to take a look at what you wrote, but the distinctions and the similarities in your mind between social media and AI, and to the extent you'd regulate it in a similar way or not. And by the way, let's be honest, Washington hasn't been willing or able to regulate any of it.
Yeah, well, look, Andrew, look, at a high level, the truth is Europe will always over-regulate. The U.S. under-regulates, and the truth is somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic is what we really need. But really, the analogies are clear here. There's a lot of things that people did not understand when it came to the dangers of social media. They leaned on Section 230 of the Indecency and Communication Act, and they tried to let that spur innovation. We want that. But at the same time, you want to be able to align the interests of what AI is doing with the interests of humanity or the end users. And actually, that's where we failed with social media. In social media's case, the interests of the social media players were aligned with advertisers, not with the end users. And what did we get? We got addictive behaviors for children. We got amplification of fake news. We got all sorts of issues with echo chambers. Those are the kind of things we want to avoid moving forward without stifling the innovation that is so important with what AI can deliver.
Okay, so Andrew, I'm making you regulatory king of the globe for the day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's your title. You do what to AI?
All right, well, so let me give you some examples of things that could be done, all right? And I'm going to use social media again because, one, I'm not a regulatory expert, but I do watch what some of the experts say. So there's people like Sinan Errol, who is at the MIT Initiative for the Digital Economy. He proposed quite some time ago that in the social media's case, if you really wanted to regulate, to tap down the dangers of social media, you'd open up people's social graphs. You'd make their social graphs portable. Now, what that does is that clearly aligns the incentives of the social media players with pleasing the customers, pleasing the end user, not necessarily just the advertisers. Now, what are parallels like that for AI? I don't know exactly, not smart enough, but what I will say is there are things that we can do that tap down the most risky areas of AI. And one of the things I like about what I'm hearing from the Biden administration in Europe is they're really trying to focus on a risk-based approach, trying to target things that get in the way of people getting jobs, people being sent to prison or being released from prison, areas where bad AI can really do bad things. If we stay focused on those things and we don't let the regulations bleed into areas where good things can be done, like the world I serve of designing and making everything, right, then I think we've got the right balance.
Okay, so one of the things we've heard from people like Sam Altman and others is that we should potentially think about creating some kind of global regulatory body even. Would you endorse that idea? Do you think that's a plausible idea? Who would you put on such a body if it were to exist?
Look, I think it's a plausible idea. And I think, one of the big fears out there, okay, and like we live between extremes, right? AI is going to cure cancer, solve climate change. AI is going to take all our jobs away and perpetuate historical biases. We definitely have these huge extremes here. But if we had an international body or a body that set some kind of terms and controls around what is acceptable for an AGI to do, because we're going to have an artificial general intelligence that can be deployed to do bad things. This is going to happen. And what we want to do is make sure that AGIs aren't deployed in places where vulnerabilities can be exploited, either to attack a nation state or to attack a subset of a population. An international body that agrees on governing principles is a great idea. I think it needs to be a combination of leaders from the EU and the US. It's what we failed to do around privacy. GDPR still stands in Europe, and we have nothing strong in the US yet.